One of the most alluring qualities of One Piece is how the world is simultaneously a bizarre, goofy, fantasy setting, while also being remarkably true to our own reality. It's what makes the emotional depth and sincerity so hard-hitting, because on the surface, you'd never expect it. I would argue that the best stories, the ones that really stick with you, are the ones that achieve a similar effect, being able to simultaneously offer you an escape from the struggles of the real world while also giving you new perspectives to understand it. In many ways, stories are the lifeblood of humanity. They frequently serve as lessons, reminders, and warnings, and they have the power to be heard far across the world long after their creators are dead. This is often why books are banned or even burned in oppressive societies across time, because stories and the truths within them are powerful enough to inspire people to use their voices, and those voices can lead to change. As a story, one of the things that One Piece tells us through its framing of oppression is how cycles of systematic hatred thrive throughout world history. Arcs like Fishman Island, Wano, Dressrosa, Skypiea not only depict instances of persecution from years in the past, they remind us of how they've managed to repeat in the present. What's currently been going on in Gaza for nearly 2 years now is an unfortunate but undeniable example. Over 50,000 people have been killed. Hundreds of people are still being killed every day. Many of those numbers are children, infants even. Masses of people being unjustly murdered for something they have no control over is nothing short of genocide. We're currently living through one of the worst atrocities in modern times. But you've heard all of this before, haven't you? So much so that some of you may even be tired of hearing it. So why am I going out of my way to tell you again? Why do other people continue to go out of their way to tell you again? Voices lead to change. Knowledge, understanding, and awareness are dangerous to those who seek to control and destroy. These things threaten what I believe is one of the major reasons for the Gaza conflict's persistence: propaganda. It is through propaganda that oppression is able to thrive. One Piece reminds us of this most effectively during the Marineford arc. Despite the world government's insistence, the events of Marineford were an absolute tragedy for both sides. Roughly 10,000 people died, Marines and pirates, and yet the people of the world watched and rejoiced. This is directly the result of the world government's propaganda. By demonizing Ace and Whitebeard, they managed to justify the war itself. They made people believe that it was necessary, when in reality it was nothing more than an immoral act of revenge. The death of thousands of innocent Marines was entirely the fault of the world government, but because of the power of propaganda, they were celebrated for it. Ace was targeted for something he had no control over, something that did not define his worth, and he was killed for it. Whitebeard wanted nothing more than to live in peace with his family, and he was killed for it. Doesn't that sound at all like the people of Gaza? Through labeling, controlling the narrative, and limiting information, thousands of regular people have been getting massacred for basically 20 months straight. In One Piece, we know that the world government fears freedom. They fear what Roger stood for, and they fear anyone doing what he once did. The One Piece represents the ultimate truth, and that's exactly why they're afraid of anyone finding it. Their greatest strength is not the Navy, the Holy Knights, or Emu, it's censorship. It's how they've managed to stay in power for over 800 years. And this is why I've always seen the outcome of the Marineford War as a victory for Whitebeard. In his final moments, he used his voice to remind the world that there is more to what they can see. Whitebeard's words were able to ripple out, and one day they will in part be responsible for a new dawn. But he wasn't the only one who made an impact by using his voice. Kobe risked his life by begging Akainu to stop throwing away lives. And although he admittedly wasn't trying to, Buggy managed to showcase the brutality of the war at a time when the Navy wanted people to be in the dark. This theme of suppressing information through propaganda is obviously not exclusive to Marineford. It's in practically every single saga. There are many other storylines I could bring up to support my claims, but I want to take a moment to quickly discuss Alabasta. Throughout the entire arc, Princess Vivi is desperately trying to have her voice heard by her people, but after failing to reach them in time, as hundreds of people mercilessly killed each other below, she might as well have not existed at all. That is, until Luffy arrived and declared that he could hear her voice. And although this isn't explicitly communicated in some of the other arcs, it is the essence of every liberation that happens in One Piece. Luffy listens to those who are suffering, and he gives power to their voice. Now, obviously we can't go around punching these problems away in real life, but what Oda is essentially telling us is that despite how bleak and pointless it may seem, using your voice and believing in change can be rewarded. Propaganda is never foolproof. Truth can never truly be erased if we continue to speak on it. This sickening act of selfish evil that they're calling a war is not something that needs to happen, and it's not something that we have to accept. There are Palestinians struggling to have their voice heard, but those of us on the outside have a voice too. The less we use it, the easier it is for something like this to continue. At the very least, we have to pay attention and listen. One Piece is goofy fun, and there's nothing wrong with escaping into that. I often do the same thing when the heaviness of situations like what's happening in Gaza become a bit too much. That's partly what stories are for, but they're also meant to leave you with something when you step away. Interwoven into One Piece's colorful, carefree narrative is some very real truth, and it is extremely relevant right now. Free Palestine, stop the genocide, and don't let their voices fade into obscurity. If you're still here, thank you for watching. Before I wrap up, I'd like to give credit to Big Dad for coming forth and urging the One Piece community to use our connection to this story in order to shine a light on the issue at hand. His heartfelt and passionate words were what inspired me to put a pause on my usual content and make this video here. If you haven't seen his 2 most recent videos, then I highly recommend you check them out. I'll leave a link in the description. Anyway, that's all for now. See ya.